The US House of Representatives has approved a major military aid package for Ukraine, Taiwan, Israel and several other allies. It had been held up for weeks because of divisions among Republicans on support for Ukraine. But after being split into separate bills, it will now go to the Senate before being signed by President Joe Biden. Let's take a look at what's included in the package. First bill has $61 billion for Ukraine, including defense, humanitarian aid and cash to keep its government running. The second gives $17 billion to Israel, including for the replenishment of its Iron Dome missiles. There's also $9 billion in aid for Gaza and US development efforts in the occupied West Bank. And $8 billion has been set aside for the defense of US allies in the Western Pacific, mostly Taiwan. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelenskyy has thanked the US House for passing the aid package.
Today we received the decision we expected, the package of American support that we fought so hard for. And it's a very significant package that will be felt by our soldiers on the front line, as well as by our towns and villages that are suffering from Russian terror. Today, the US House of Representatives voted. Thank you to everyone who supported our package. This is a solution for saving lives.
Well, John Holman is live for us now from the Ukrainian capital, Kyiv. So are Ukrainian officials breathing a sigh of relief that this bill has passed at least the first hurdle of the House of Representatives?
Yeah, I mean, we heard there from the Ukrainian president, but also the prime minister came out, his chief of staff came out, and all of them thanked Congress. And I think it's a reflection of how long this got held up. It was about 2 months there in Congress, and a lot of Republicans didn't even want this to get to the floor for a vote. And then after a 5-minute vote, suddenly Ukraine had the money that it said that it desperately needed. Our team has been told when they've gone to the front lines that Russians are out shelling the Ukrainians for 6-1, and that soon that would become 10-1. And they haven't got the air defense units to protect, for example, their power plants. A lot of those have got knocked out, and also their industrial capacity in the country. So it was really getting into a desperate situation if this hadn't have got through. Of course, this isn't the end of it. Now it's still going to get through the Senate, and then it's got to be signed into law by President Joe Biden. But those seem more of a formality. Really, it was Congress with its Republican majority that was the major hurdle on this.
And John, what are Ukrainians saying about what difference the additional US weapons will make to the battles that are ongoing right now?
Well, I think from the government, we were sort of monitoring this yesterday as it was coming through, and Kyiv in itself is in a little bit of a bubble in that it's not hit quite as much as other parts of the country. But even on the national television, the presenters were sort of celebrating as this got through. President Zelenskyy tweeted immediately afterwards saying that this meant that history was going to go on the right track and that it was going to save thousands of lives. I think the other question, though, is how soon it can get to the front line to start saving those Ukrainian lives, especially of the soldiers. The Pentagon has said that it can move this in a matter of days, but military analysts say that in terms of it getting to the Ukrainian front line, that's going to take weeks, which gives Russia a bit of a window to press home its advantage while it still has more munitions and more missiles to attack Ukraine.
All right, thanks so much, John Holman. Well, Pavel Felgenhauer is a defense and military analyst, joins us by Skype now from Moscow. Good to have you with us. So, first of all, let me get your take on what impact this is going to have on the battles that are going on and the progress which Russia has recently made on the battlefield.
Well, though it's Sunday today in Moscow, Russian officials have already reacted to the House resolution on Ukraine, and the Russian response is defiant. Russian officials have said that this is not going to change anything, that this will not help Ukraine win, that Ukraine is going to lose, but the United States wants to keep the Ukrainian military and still fighting till the November presidential elections, maybe. and that America is stealing Russian frozen assets to spend this money, stolen money, on its own military-industrial complex, because most of the money is going to stay in America to buy American arms, and Ukrainians will be just sacrificed. So it's a predictable reaction that this is not changing much on the battlefield, and that this is going to be just worse for Ukraine. Ukraine is going to lose, but it's going to suffer a lot.
Pavel, will this go towards closing the ammunition gap at all? The estimates say Russia can produce almost 3 times as many artillery shells to use in Ukraine as the combined Western countries can produce for Ukraine to use in the battlefield.
Well, the actual numbers of Russian ordnance production are secret. No one knows for sure how many of which kind of shells are being produced. Russia has been acquiring them also, importing them apparently from North Korea. That means it also has some problems there. So yes, there's going to be most likely some kind of balance, because there's also not only the American aid package, but there's this Czech-led European package. And apparently at least 500,000 shells are already in the pipeline that should arrive imminently in several days, most likely, or a week or two on the battlefield. So I believe, yes, both sides will be still having enough shells to pound each other. It's not that one of the sides is going to be collapsing. But what's really militarily more important is maybe new kind of weapons, or more of the old weapons, but Ukraine has been already using, like, Bradley armored vehicles that have been apparently effectively used, but Ukraine has got 200, lost of it, about 40, 50. But the United States has big stockpiles of these Bradleys that were used in Iraq, and they don't need them, the American military. So there's going to be more weapons, more missiles coming in of longer range, and this is going to, of course, make the war more bloody, and it's going to prolong the war. It's going to be right now moving into the summer fighting season, and both sides will be doing their best to achieve strategically important breakthroughs, and no one really knows for sure on any side who's going to be more successful. But we know that it's going to be a lot of fighting.
Okay, thanks so much, Pavel Felgenhauer there.
Thank you.
Make sure to subscribe to our channel to get the latest news from Al Jazeera.